Parsha. This is our daily look at the Torah reading or the section for the day. Today is Tuesday, March 9th. Torah portion is a double header. 2 for the price of 1. That's a good deal. This is a good Torah deal right now, today.
Rabbi, I just have to say, since our speaker last night, Rabbi Chris, was talking about the Mishkan, it made a lot of sense to me because we have done so much work on the Mishkan. You're frozen again. Uh-oh. Hello? Hello?
Green. I had set for 2.
We're losing you, Rabbi.
I'm going to this and let's jump in.
We lost them.
I'm back. I think I cut out for a minute.
Okay, good.
Can you guys hear me now?
Now, yes. Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Moving,
I'm back and better than ever.
Keep
All right.
moving so we know you're not frozen. That was a joke.
I'll keep on bobbing and weaving.
Right.
Donna, but I heard you started to say something. Do you have a question?
No, I was saying last night, Rabbi Crisp's discussion of the Mishkan really resonated because we have done so much work on the Mishkan, so I could really follow it.
Isn't it amazing how a lot of what he said last night connected with a bunch of different classes that we've done? Yeah. Like some of the life and death stuff about, some stuff about, I don't know, about the Mishkan. Like a lot of the stuff was kind of like, I'm like, wow, you would think we all planned this together, but it's
jewelry.
it's a good synergy.
Jewelry, yeah.
Anyway, it all comes back together.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump into the text. I'm going to try to share again. I hope that it wasn't a challenge with the screen share. I hope this still works. Let me try this again. Let's see, where is my browser window? Give me a moment, please.
But isn't it interesting too that Rabbi Crisp is like named after the CRISPR technology?
It is interesting, yeah. That it is. He's a very compelling individual. He really is. He's got just incredible wisdom, and his job is literally a futurist. He is the person that business people consult with when they're investing in whatever in technologies. He does a lot of work in that field. So it's kind of cool. At least my understanding of what he does. Either way.
I know.
All right.
I like that. I thought that, my idea goes into the spiritual kind of startup too, in a way.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What he was talking about at the end about business becoming spiritual and ethical. Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a trend. All right, well, we are back to Daily Power Parsha. I hope we don't cut out. Let's take a look at the shared screen, which I'm going to share once again. And again, I'm hoping that this works successfully. Chapter 35 of Exodus, verse number 30, second reading. So Moses said to the children of Israel, because remember, we're up to the part where Moses tells the people everything that God told him. So he says, see, the Lord has called by name Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. So basically, God told me specifically to recruit Bezalel to be the foreperson in charge of this project. God has imbued Bezalel with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with insight, with knowledge. By the way, those words, Chachma, Tfuna, and Dat, Chabad, essentially. Wisdom, insight, and knowledge, and with talent for all manner of craftsmanship. Right? This guy, Bezalel, could do it all. As we said before, God says that I've given Bezalel these abilities. Moses telling the people about Bezalel's abilities. He can do master weaving. He can work with gold, silver, and copper. He can work with stones, craft of stone for setting, and with the craft of wood, to work with every manner of thoughtful work. This guy can do it all. He is a master of all of these artisan types of activities. And God put into his heart, into Bezalel's heart, the ability to teach. both him and Oliab, the son of Achisamach, the tribe of Dan. That's huge. Donna, I mean, it's not only about you, but it is about you also. It's one thing to be an artist, but it's another thing to be able to teach others the artistry. Because Betzalel was not building it himself. He was assembling a team of individuals who would then build this home for God. It was meant to be a collective effort. So he was not just skilled on his own, he was skilled to be able to communicate that with others as well. And immediately we get our first timeless lesson. Timeless lesson number one, right here. If God gave you a gift, right? If God gave you a gift, share it with others. Teach others, right? Pay the gift forward. Don't hold on to the gift. Allow the gift to be your gift in turn to others, right? Share the gift with others. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to swing around the space that I'm in to make it more, maybe a little bit more user-friendly for me. All right. So again, that's message number one right here, is that in addition to telling us, in addition to the Torah telling us, who's supposed to be doing the work, the message here is that if you have a gift, teach it. And by the way, the gift here is referred to as a heart gift. You see that? He put into his heart the ability to teach, which tells us something about the nature of teaching. It's not just that you're smart. Teaching is not just an intellectual thing. It's not just that. It's not just an intellectual thing. If you have the know-how, you can teach. It's also an empathy. I don't know if empathy is the right word, but it's a connection. Teaching is so much about connection. It's about connecting with the students. Certainly, teaching from the Kabbalah and Hasidic philosophy, you're not just imparting information. It's not like taking 1 cup of wisdom and pouring it into an empty cup. That's not what teaching is. Teaching is about forging a connection that takes many different forms. You could be sharing an idea, sharing a feeling, whatever it is, but there's an empathetic connection there that is at the core of teaching. In fact, and I'll just share this idea with you. The previous Rabbi, he wrote a discourse that's translated into English. The translation is called, I may have it here. Not I may have it here. It may be here in this office. Give me 1 second. See if I can find it for you. This book is here.
You're going in and out, Rabbi.
Discourse written by previous Rabbi, all about education and guidance. He taught here's the outline of the chapters, about like the principles, 17 principles of.
I can't hear you, Ari. He's not usually gone that long.
Sandrine, are you there? There you are. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Sandrine. There.
Yes, but I'm on my bike. So.
Yeah, but we lost the Rabbi.
Who else is here? Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi. How are you?
4 participants.
Good, and you?
1, 2, 3. Oh, there he's trying to come back. I see his name. Yeah.
Recorded. Videos off. Come on, Ari. Are your videos off?
Mark, you're ready to come back to shul?
There's the, okay, Rabbi, you're muted. You're muted, Rabbi. There you go.
I'm working on this. This is a challenging Wi-Fi spot. Can you guys hear me now? Are we back?
Now, yes, yes.
Hear you now.
Okay, we're back and better than ever. All right, hopefully this is gonna work. I've switched my Wi-Fi connection to be a hotspot for my phone. So hopefully that's gonna be better because the local internet is not working. But here's what I wanted to point out to you. In the Principles of Education and Guidance, it's unbelievable how he goes through like 17 core ideas. And I'm gonna put them up very quickly here. You're not gonna be able to read them all. And then these are elaborated in the many chapters and other ideas that follow. But I'm just gonna read to you the list here. So number one is the doctrine of education and guidance. Like, what is education and guidance? And then he talks about principles of education and guidance. And then he says, a person's self-examination and preparation. And he talks about the first provision of teaching is self-examination by the educator and counselor. You can't teach if you don't know, if you haven't done an assessment internally. And then the second provision is the preparation of the educator and counselor. So first self-examination, then preparation. And then there's number three is perception of a pupil's character and situation. And what you're talking about here is forging a connection. You cannot teach you could teach, you can say words, but you're not going to teach, you're not going to educate, guide, mentor, unless you have a connection. And you can't have a connection unless you know who you are and who they are, and you find a way to connect. That's the only way that's the only way. It's a relationship. And so I personally find it extremely telling, right? I personally find it extremely telling that that the Torah says that Betzalel has a power of the heart to teach. And I'll pull up the text again and share it, just because we've been cut off a few times already today. But yeah, just the verse that I'm referring to is right here. Number 34. Moses says that God has put into Betzalel's heart the ability to teach. That's all you need to know. Teaching is about connection. Both him and Eliab, the other had the son of Achsamach, the tribe of Dan. Let's continue, verse 35. He imbued them, Betzalel and Oholiab, with wisdom of the heart, again, the heart, to do all sorts of work of a craftsman and a master worker and an embroiderer, with blue, purple, and crimson wool and linen, and of weavers, those who do every manner of work, and master weavers. All right. Let's continue. Exodus chapter 36. Moses continues to say to the people, remember, Moses is telling the people the game plan. Betzalel and Oholiab, and every wise-hearted man, into whom God has imbued wisdom and insight to know how to do, shall do all the work of the service of the holy according to all that the Lord has commanded. So they are going to be the ones who lead everyone else who's ready to do this, every wise-hearted person. Again, man here is not gender specific. Every wise-hearted person into this work, into this holy work. So what's interesting here is that we're finding the expression wise-hearted, not wise, not hearted, but wise-hearted, which, you know, is curious. In the Hebrew, it's chacham lev, wise-hearted or wise of heart. And typically we associate wisdom with the mind and emotion with the heart. And here we're talking about kind of a commingling of the two. So number one, as I said before, if you want to teach, you have to have wisdom to share and a connection, an emotional connection with the student. Well, that's one point. But I think there's another message here as well, and that is, how do you build a tabernacle? How do you build a home for God? You have to focus on your intellectual connection and your emotional connection. Building a home, building a space for God in the world, in our lives, requires both study, but also feeling. Like we've been learning in Tanya on Thursday nights in our Think Different class, it's not only doing a mitzvah, it's not only studying Torah, but it's feeling a love for Hashem. It's feeling an awe for Hashem. It's having that emotional connection. In addition to just the intellectual or the functional connection, the emotional connection goes a long way. Let's continue inside. Verse 2. And Moses called Bezalel and Eliab, and every wise-hearted man to whose heart the Lord had given wisdom, everyone whose heart lifted him up to approach the work to do it. I love this line. Everyone whose heart lifted him up. That means everyone who was inspired. Heart lifted up means everyone who was inspired to participate in the building of the Mishkan, they were on board. What was the barrier of entry? Are you ready to go? That's it. If you're ready to go and you can follow instructions, you're in. It's kind of like when we do jewelry, right? Jewelry making. What's the qualification? You have to be trained by you have to have previous training? No. You have to just jump in and follow our trusty guide, right? We're going to do a paint night soon coming up as well. What's the qualification for paint night? We'll give you the kit, follow the instructions. It's not paint by numbers. It's a little bit more sophisticated than that, but it's about being inspired, wanting to express one's creativity and jumping in. But Sal and Eliab, they gave the orders, and the others, they followed the lead. All right, here we go. So here's how it plays out. This is in action. Remember, we have not had any action yet. God spoke to Moses and told Moses the game plan. Moses spoke to the Jewish people, told them the game plan, but now it actually happens. Do you see what's going on here? There's a shift. Instead of what should be done, well, this is what happened. So they took from before Moses all the offerings that the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the holy. And they brought him more gifts every morning. They started bringing in all the stuff. All the supplies that came into Moses, the workers, they started gathering it and getting it ready, set up, organized in the warehouse or in the shop, whatever that looked like. Then, and by the way, they brought him more gifts every morning. Every morning, more donations were coming in. Then all the wise men who were doing the work of the holy came, each one from his work, which they had been doing. And they spoke to Moses saying, and this is what Rabbi Chris mentioned last night, the people are bringing very much, more than is enough for the labor of the articles which the Lord had commanded to do. In other words, we have so much supplies, we have so many materials. It's more than it's more than we need. All right. Well, if Moses hears from his professionals that there's enough stuff, he puts out the call to the people. So Moses commanded, and they announced in the camp saying, let no man or woman do any more work for the offering for the holy. By the way, this any more work for the offering of the holy, that means any more work in offering and giving and donating toward the holy temple, toward this building project. So not that they already built it and no more work needs to be done, but no more work for the offering, for the donations for the temple. So the people stopped bringing. Basically, the workers, or Bezalel and Eliab themselves, came to Moses and says, we have enough supplies. Moses puts out the word, we have enough supplies. So the people stop bringing. And the work, verse 7, this is the verse that he mentioned last night, and the work was sufficient for them for all the work, to do it and to leave over. There was even some extra. There was some extra. What does that mean? Well, mystically, we said last night that the world is a work in progress, and there's still more that we can develop. But in this context, it means that indeed there was enough supplies, enough materials to make this Mishkan. All right, let's continue. Verse 8. Then all the wise-hearted people of the performers of the work made the Mishkan. They made it. Mishkan tabernacle, out of 10 curtains consisting of twisted fine linen and blue, purple, and crimson wool, a cherubim design, the work of a master weaver, he made them. The cherubim is not the cherubim on the ark. I mean, that did happen also, but this is a pattern in the curtains. And of course, as we know from a few weeks ago, the dimensions were as intended. The length of one curtain was 28 cubits, and the width of one cubit was 4 cubits, the same measure for all the curtains. And he joined 5 of these curtains to one another, and the other 5 curtains he also joined to one another. And he made loops of blue wool on the edge of one curtain, that is at the edge of the first set. And he did the same on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. He made 50 loops on the edge of one curtain, and he made 50 loops on the edge of the curtain in the second set, the loops corresponding to one another. By the way, if this sounds familiar, all of this stuff, yeah, it's because this is what God told Moses to tell the people to do. And now they actually did it. And the Torah goes into all the details of exactly how they made everything according to the specs that were given to them. And he made 50, he, by the way, is Betzalel, because although his people made it, but it's he because he was the head of the operation. And he made 50 golden clasps, and he fashioned the curtains to one another with the clasps, so the Mishkan became one. And then he made curtains of goat hair for the tent, for a tent over the Mishkan. He made them 11 curtains. The length of one curtain was 30 cubits. The width of one curtain was 4 cubits, the same measure for the 11 curtains. And he joined, verse 16, the 5 curtains by themselves and the other 6 curtains by themselves. And he made 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain of the first set and 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. And he made 50 copper clasps to fasten the tent together so that it became one. And he made a covering for the tent of ram's skins dyed red and a covering of tachash skins above. And he made the planks for the Mishkan of acacia wood, upright. 10 cubits was the length of each plank, and 1.5 cubits was the width of each plank. Each plank had 2 square pegs, rung like, one even with the other. So did he make for all the planks of the Mishkan. And he made the planks for the Mishkan, 20 planks for the southern side. He made 40 silver sockets under the 20 planks, 2 sockets under one plank for its 2 square pegs, and 2 sockets under one plank for its 2 square pegs. And for the second side of the Mishkan, on the northern side, he made 20 planks. And there 40 silver sockets, 2 sockets under one plank and 2 sockets under one plank. And for the western end of the Mishkan, he made 6 planks. And he made 2 planks in the corners, at the corners of the Mishkan at the end. And they were matched evenly from below, and together they matched at the top to be put into the one ring. So did he make for both of them for the 2 corners. And there were 8 planks, and their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one plank, 2 sockets under the other plank. And he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the planks of one side of the Mishkan, and 5 bars for the planks of the second side of the Mishkan, and 5 bars for the planks of the rear side of the Mishkan on the western end. And he made the middle bar to penetrate in the midst of the planks from the one end to the other end. That was the bar that went through the planks miraculously. And he overlaid the planks with gold, and their rings he made of gold as holders for the bars, and he overlaid the bars with gold. And he made the dividing curtain of blue, purple, and crimson wool, and twisted fine linen, the work of a master weaver. He made it in a woven cherubim design. He made it 4 pillars. He made for it 4 pillars of acacia wood. He overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were gold, and he cast for them 4 silver sockets. And he made a screen for the entrance of the tent of blue, purple, and crimson wool and fine twisted linen, the work of an embroiderer. And its 5 pillars and their hooks, and he overlaid their tops and their bands with gold, and their 5 sockets were copper. Now, if you're wondering why I'm just running through it and not explaining it, well, we went through the details a few weeks ago. And honestly, a picture would be easy to explain it. But here's the point. The Torah details everything that was made exactly as requested by God. Let's continue, because I want to share an insight here. Betzalel made the ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 2.5 wide. Sorry, 1.5 cubits wide and 1.5 cubits high. Betzalel made it. You notice before he made, he overlaid. He, almost every verse begins with he. Almost. Right? He made. You see what's going on here? Who's the he? Betzalel. And yet, here, instead of, and he made, it says Betzalel. Why Betzalel? Here's one answer. Because we're talking about the ark. And the ark was the holiest item. So when it comes to the ark, even though he made all of them with everybody else, and he invested his energies with all of them, but when it came to the ark, the holy ark, he invested that much more of himself in it, which tells us something beautiful. In life, what's your ark? What's your signature creation? Betzalel made it all, but what's his name on? His name is on the ark. The Torah puts his name on the ark. What is your signature mitzvah? We do as many as we can, right? We do lots of different good deeds. But what's your signature mitzvah? The Talmud has a beautiful conversation between tells the conversation between a bunch of rabbis. And their question was essentially, what was your dad into? What mitzvah was he into? Yeah, he did lots of mitzvahs, but what was his signature mitzvah? And the message is, for us, what's our signature mitzvah? What's the mitzvah that gets us going, that gets us excited? That everyone knows that, oh, this guy or this person, that's their mitzvah. What shines by us? I don't have an answer. You have the answer. If we don't have one, then we need to find one. But the point is that when it comes to the ark, Bitzal made the ark. That was his signature creation. All right. And he back to the he's, and he overlaid it with pure gold from inside and from outside. And he made for it a golden crown all around. And he cast 4 golden rings for it upon its 4 corners, 2 rings on one side, 2 rings on the other side. And he made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. And he inserted the poles into the rings in the sides of the ark to carry the ark. And he made an ark cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. And he made 2 golden cherubim. He made them of hammered work from the 2 ends of the ark cover, 1 cherub from the one end, the other cherub from the other end. From the ark cover, he made the cherubim from its 2 ends. The cherubim had their wings spread upward, shielding the ark cover with their wings. Their faces toward one another, turned toward the ark cover were the faces of the cherubim. And he made a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold. He made for it a golden crown all around. He made for it a frame, a handbreadth wide all around. He made a golden crown for its frame all around. And he cast for it, once again, 4 golden rings. He placed the rings in the 4 corners that are on its 4 legs. The rings were opposite the frame as holders for the poles with which to carry the table. And he made the poles of acacia wood, and he overlaid them with gold to carry the table. And he made the implements that are on the table, its forms, its spoons, its half pipes, and its supports with which it will be covered of pure gold. And honestly, there's not much commentary to share on this because we had the description before. Take a look. I just toggled Rashi. You ready? Look at Rashi. Rashi's obviously in the highlighted area. You notice something? You see how little commentary there is? You know why? Because as Rashi says, I already explained this before. I already explained this, so I don't need to get into detail. Where does Rashi say this? I can't find this right now, but one of the Rashi says, essentially, I've already explained you the details of the construction or how it was supposed to be constructed. So here, as it plays out, I don't need to elaborate. But all this evokes a question that I want to leave you with. The question is, well, couldn't the Torah that is so brief, so succinct, so concise in its language that the Talmud has to derive laws from words and letters, could the Torah not have spared dozens, literally dozens of verses with one simple verse that would have said, and the people did exactly what they were commanded to do, or the people built the Mishkan exactly as they were commanded to build it? Why not just say that one line and avoid the repetition of all these verses? The Rebbe asked this question. The Rebbe said, it doesn't make sense that the Torah would repeat the whole story again when it could have just said, and they did it. But the Rebbe says, if the Torah would have done that, it would have robbed us of a powerful message. You see, there were really 2 tabernacles, 2 Mishkans. There's the tabernacle that God envisions on top of the mountain, speaking with Moses. And then there's the tabernacle that the Jewish people built. And those aren't the same thing. It's like Platonic forms. You know what Plato said about forms? Plato said, from a philosophical perspective, that there's no such thing as a tree. You look outside, I'm looking outside now and I see a tree and, oh, that's a tree. That's a tree. And what's that? That's also a tree. But they don't look the same. They're not the same. So how can they both be tree? How can you call 2 different trees a tree? So Plato says that there must be some perfect definition of a tree, a perfect tree. And everything else is striving but failing and living up to that perfect standard. So when we call something a tree, what we say is what we mean is it's a weak sauce attempt at what's really a tree. That's what Plato says. Plato says that perfection is found in perfection and everything else imperfection. That's a philosophical perspective.
Ari, I think he used the phrase "the throne of truth."
Could be.
Could be. A lot of years.
Yeah. And Judaism fundamentally disagrees with him And where do we see this? Right here with the repetition of all these verses. Why? God finds beautiful not just the perfection, the vision of the temple, of the tabernacle, the one that God conceived of and articulated to Moses on the mountain, the greatest teacher, the greatest student in a pure form. That's not the only definition of tabernacle. You know what else is a tabernacle? The imperfect one. Yeah, they try to get close, I'm sure, but you could always measure it. And the imperfect one that was actually built by the people. And where does God dwell? Where did God rest? On top of the mountain or in the physical incarnation of said tabernacle? And the answer is in the physical incarnation of the tabernacle, the imperfect one, which tells us Judaism's opposite take on life. The philosopher said that the truest, purest, greatest, holiest, best space is not here, up there. And Judaism says, no, the greatest, holiest, purest place is in that place that is fraught with flaws and contradictions and sometimes ugliness and difficulty. But that's where the beauty lies. And so the Rebbe, and this is all, I'm giving you all paraphrasing the Rebbe's explanation. This is why the Torah expends dozens of verses to essentially, seemingly repeat the same thing. Because in truth, there are two different realities. There's the tabernacle that God speaks of and the tabernacle that we built. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. There's the vision and the execution. And if the Torah would have said, oh, they built it exactly as God had commanded, it would have robbed us of the individuality that the human creation has. And it would have also robbed us of the dignity that God grants to the imperfect version. I don't mean to keep on going back to this, but I am going back to this again. There's the jewelry that Donna makes as the sample. And then there's the jewelry that everyone makes at home on their own. And you know what? It may not look exactly the same, but there's beauty and dignity and honor in the imperfect, flawed attempts that we all make in life. I've moved away from that back to life in general, right? There's the vision of the tabernacle and its implementation. And the implementation is no less holy than the vision. To grant it equal holiness and validity, the Torah repeats the verses again. Oh, not again. The Torah repeats all of the verses about the construction. Does that make sense, that insight? Does that make sense? Yes?
Okay. Ari, I have something to add.
Think. Yeah, go ahead.
This is about Bezalel, and this actually is, it goes along with what you're saying, because Rashi says this, that he was of the tribe of Dan, I'm reading, of the lowest of the tribes, of the sons of the maidservants. The omnipresent put him on the level of Bezalel with regard to the work of the Mishkan, who was of the greatest of the tribes, I guess for the Kohanim, to fulfill that which it says, and the nobleman is not recognized ahead of the pauper. So to me, that's kind of tangential. It goes along with what you're saying, yeah.
I love it. And let me explain, Mark, what you just said for everybody. So there were two main people, Bezalel and Oholiab. Bezalel came from a prestigious tribe family. Oholiab, not so much. I mean, they're all Jews, but within the rankings, if you will, they on a different level. And
so it's not talking about Bezalel. It's talking about...
It's Bezalel and Oholiab. Oholiab was the one who came from the not so fancy family. Bezalel did, but the point that Rashi says is they were put together and they were equally significant. And I think, Mark, that's a micro, or I don't know, that's sharing basically the same point, right? It's not like, well, there's perfection and flaw, and this is much better than that. There's beauty in both. And God says, on my team, I'm going to have Bezalel and Oholiab. In my Torah, I'm going to have the vision and the imperfect execution. It's like you go to a piano recital. Is that what they're called? And someone's playing, a kid is playing the piano or something. Is it perfect? No. Is it beautiful? Maybe also not. No, I'm kidding. Is it meaningful? Yes. And to grant it its own space, the Torah gives dozens of verses and much attention to the experience of the building, because what we do is precious in God's eyes. All right, thank you for joining me today for Daily Power Parsha. It's great to have you join me this afternoon. We're back tomorrow, same bad time, same bad channel. online, not in person tomorrow because I need to be
Good.
off location, off site, but hopefully the week afterwards, we would have been back if I was going to be in town, but I need to be in a different part of the city for other reasons. And therefore, we can't do it in person. I mean, you can do it in person. You can show up there but it's going to take away from the whole, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I won't be on location. I'll be on a different location, but next week, hopefully we'll be back. Wednesday night, Torah studies, nothing tonight, tomorrow night, and then Thursday night, and the party rolls on. If you haven't yet signed up for Sunday for David Lazan's mom, for her talk, join us. If you have, but you know somebody who might appreciate it, forward them the message, help share it on Facebook, etc.
How do we get
sorry?
I signed up, which included a book. How do I get the book?
Yeah. It's going to be sent to you. It'll be sent to you. Expect it in the next few days. And then, let me just think. And then we also have paint night coming up next week. In about a little under 2 weeks, we have the next jewelry workshop on the 22nd, and then we have Passover. So stay tuned. Oh, and also we have some surprises that should be hitting your mailbox at some point soon. So can't say any more. That's it. So thank you for joining me today, and we'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
Everybody.